Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Freeman Files here on the J Free 906 podcast channel. We have Mike, Owen, and Shannon Ewald here with us tonight. How are you two doing?
Excellent.
Good. Shannon, been a while.
Fantastic.
I know we had you dragged along in the Bigfoot stuff there for a while, but here you are back to talk some Skinwalker Ranch.
That is true. You did have me in for Bigfoot stuff. I felt very out of place. It changed the way I viewed the world, but now I am back.
Good. Well, I tell you what, if anything can change the world for us all, it is what our guests are currently doing and have been doing out at Skinwalker Ranch for the past 5-6 years now. They've been doing some crazy experiments that I tell you what have changed the way I look at a lot of things about this world. And I'm assuming you guys feel the same way.
The ranch drives me crazy.
I think it drives
trying to troubleshoot that ranch I don't know how they keep their sanity there. Or maybe they don't.
I was going to say, I think it's debatable as to whether or not they do keep their sanity there.
Fair.
Well, we'll find out here in just a moment. I wanted to say thank you, folks, for joining us here tonight. We appreciate it very much. And if you haven't already, as I say, please consider subscribing to the channel and click on that notification bell so that you can know when we have new content coming out. I have a feeling that we're going to get a little snippets or a few snippets from tonight's show that I can put out later on. So you're going to want to be, have that notification bell just for that. And if you like the content of the show we do for you here tonight, please consider giving us a thumbs up, a like on that, so it helps it get it out to more and more places. All right, and without further ado, let's get right started with this thing right here. So let's bring on, and I have to make an apology. There is our special guest, Mr. Erik Bard, Pete Kelsey, and Bobby Valentine. How you guys doing?
Life is good.
Well, I think Shannon said it best. Your point is well taken, Shannon. There was speculation on the Insider live chat that I wouldn't even remember that today was the day of our discussion.
Did you?
I'm a very good driver.
Thank you, Pete.
And he is a very good drone driver.
Yes. A very good drone driver. Well, I have to also apologize for Mr. Bobby Valentine, sir. If I'd have known that you were going to be with us tonight, I would have included you on the thumbnail, your picture and everything. So, but I apologize for that. But thank you for coming along. Did Derek and Pete drag you into this, or did you come willingly? Or
no, I came willingly.
all right, good.
Listen to the tonality of the answer.
Yeah.
I came willingly.
No, I came willingly.
Because Bobby is a new face, so Bobby is a brother. I take him on as many projects as he will agree to come on. We did Alcatraz together. I don't leave home without him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I am very glad, that we had you on the podcast, Pete, to talk about Alcatraz. That was a fantastic podcast, not because of what I do, but because of what you did and what you presented that evening to us. Phenomenal. And I'm going to tell everybody, if you have not seen that, go back in the archives and take a look at that. The show that we had with Pete Kelsey and doing it over the work that they all did at Alcatraz. Fantastic.
Thanks, Jeff.
Truly unbelievable work that you've done there. So very impressive. I tell you what, and I know you guys have had a busy week going on this week, and I wanted to kind of promo a little bit, talk a little bit about the Insider program, the Skinwalker Ranch Insider program, because I have been a part of that almost from I think I missed the first month, but almost from the very beginning. And it is a fantastic program where people, just the average folks like me and everyone else, get to watch the screens and kind of participate in the little bit of the docu-series, not so much the series, but of the work that you guys are doing out there. And I tell you what, thank you so much for Brandon, for bringing this all about, and you guys being part of. Oh, Erik, was it your brainchild to do this?
It was, but not in its current form. Again, for those who may be just new to the program, look, I broached the idea of getting lots of sets of eyes on the video surveillance effort as part of our work here. Probably, gosh, that would have been 2017. But the idea was, of course, more academic, more research oriented. We probably would not have had quite the exposure that we have through the current Insider program as it is, as you see it today. It's remarkable. It's a whole ecosystem, and so what we have today goes beyond my vision.
That's great. I tell you what, this past couple of weeks that Pete has been there with Bobby. Man, it's been active. I mean, we've been so happy. I mean, the folks are just like tuning in like crazy because so much is going on. I don't know how much you are allowed to talk about that. I'll kind of let you guys figure that out as we go along. Erik, I got to say too, that one of your profiles that I noticed, one of the things that was written under it, I wrote this down because it was so cool to describe you. It said physicist, accomplice to serendipity. I love that. That is so cool.
That's been on my LinkedIn profile since goodness, probably 2010.
I love it. I think it's really cool. That's awesome.
Well, and in a way, I think that's been true. Because a lot of the successes that I've had, and it may be true for a lot of folks, that a lot of the successes that we have do turn out to be serendipitous, and I think that definitely applies to this context.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Fantastic. It really is. And I feel the same way with what I've got going on. And I wanted to kind of mention too, let's kind of take a quick peek, if we can, and revisit a little bit of last season. And I don't know where you're at with the things that took place last season and what you can talk about in that going forward here. But one of the big things that we were all, and as you know, or you may not know, we had Jan Franke on the show last Thursday night. Jan Franke was on. That was
amazing guy.
Good.
He was amazing.
Really,
really good at presenting. I mean, if he can make ground penetrating radar sound interesting, his delivery is phenomenal. It's great.
He makes it intuitive. He makes it. I mean, by the time if you listen to Jan, you feel like you're an expert in ground penetrating radar by the time you're done with the conversation.
Yeah.
So impressed. Impressed with him.
Yeah, we covered a lot of different subjects. We covered Skinwalker Ranch and his work on the Curse of Oak Island, and of course the Egyptian pyramids on the Giza Plateau and all those claims that are going on and shooting around. And he had some very interesting and very educational things to say about all of that, and we appreciate. There you go. Yeah, it really was. Thank you, Michelle. It truly was a treat for Mike and I to go through that with him. And so one of the things that he did when he was out at Skinwalker Ranch, he had used his equipment and also some of the guys, Caleb and also Thomas, kind of helping him with the GPR instruments that he has. And they figured out that there was these, I'm going to call them blobs. I don't know what else to call them. That were underneath the mesa, and then became the drill program where you guys were trying to drill in there and come up alongside on either side of these this anomaly that's in the mesa. And right at the end of the season last year, they finally, after I don't know how many months, finally broke through without all the issues that they had. Broke through. Now, is that something? And I know I have to be careful here, but is that something that you're going to be able to go hard on to for this next season and get some equipment up that borehole? Okay. You don't have to answer that if it's something we can't. I know.
Stay tuned.
Let's just say we are led by the data. Good.
All right. Good. Well, I know that he finally broke through, and that was such a big thing for us because, again, it was painstaking, and I imagine for you all as well with all the issues that were happening with that. So I'm really hoping that we get to see good results from that going forward.
You know what, Jeff? I think you'd have a great time having a conversation with the drillers. Yeah, it's been one of the more challenging engagements that they've had, and very eventful.
Good. Yeah, that was something that showed us right at the end of the season, and then of course you had your meeting, right, the finale show in the offices with Brandon, and kind of went over a lot of the different things that you had happen and done, accomplished throughout the season, which I think that was a phenomenal season, and we can't wait to see what we have. What, 2 months, just almost 2 months to the day, or is it? Is actually is to the day that the show is going to start. Season 6. We've been told by Brandon it was going to be June 3rd, I believe. Correct?
It's news to me.
Yeah.
Yep. That was.
I think Mike
his
knows.
account.
Mhm.
Yeah, from Brandon's X account. They said that's what he said.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So June 3rd. So we're getting very, very close, and that's going to be exciting for us all. So let's jump into what's going on with you guys right now. I mean, you're pretty busy out there at the ranch. I mean, what can you tell us?
Yes. You want to take that?
So Erik and I conspired to ask Brandon if we could basically come do a lot of work that wouldn't necessarily be friendly to television. Meaning, can we repeat some experiments we've done where interesting things have shown up? Scientific method, right? Repeatability.
Yep.
Can we repeat
Love it.
some of the stuff we found in the past? And can we, maybe there's a thing or two we could do that would, like, we can talk, it'll be a short story, but we were thinking about rockets and ballistics and fast moving objects. So we tried something with some firearms yesterday, having to do with the velocity of a bullet. And did that velocity stay current or not? So again, not necessarily, you know, friendly to, you know, primetime TV. What else? And then we, for many years, we have wanted to set up a survey control network on the property, which is we put them out on social media, these monuments that are permanently mounted in the ground that basically allow us from now on to say whatever is interesting that in the past we'd say, well, it's over there somewhere. We can say it's right there. That's the idea behind those. So we've got 4 of those almost completely finished. There's 2 more to go. There'll be 6. And then what else? Then with those monuments, really excited that we've flown 3 sensors over the entire property.
Really?
LiDAR,
Wow.
photogrammetry, multispectral.
It's easy to say, but it's no small feat.
Yeah. Yeah. My question then was, you must have a ton of data to now go through.
Maybe we could show some.
Yeah, maybe we
Oh.
yeah.
Yes.
Pete, one more thing that's happened is since the first experiments have been done, technology's changed quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a lot of, some of the sensors we've used in the past are now better and more accurate. And we also have some larger birds we're flying now and things like that. So yeah, that carry better sensor technology.
Yeah.
Wow.
Translated into higher resolution, more fidelity, accuracy, precision, that kind of thing. So yeah, and we're here till Monday morning, and then we disperse. So more to do, but man, we've got a lot done.
Yeah, and we have a very ambitious next few days planned. Some of which, you know, some of this work that we're doing, you know, we've been live streaming, you know, some of the drone work, and that's really been fun. I know that a lot of the folks who are close to the program have enjoyed seeing the work in progress. You know, So the progress and the minor setbacks, you know, the diagnostics and that sort of thing. And so, you know, in the spirit of transparency, such as we've had since the beginning, you know, we've been sharing the work in progress to the extent that we can. Of course, I always clear it with Brandon.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You have to. Yeah. And we're really thankful for that, because it has been a very exciting week as an insider to be able to watch all the stuff going on as much as you can definitely show us in there. So very happy to see that. And I guess they're as the ranch often does, it hands you mishaps occasionally as well. I remember at Phenomicon, we got a chance to look at what was left of a nice winged drone that you used to have, Pete, parts of it anyway. And I hear that something similar to that happened again. Is that something you can discuss at all, or?
Yeah, ironically enough, his bird experienced the same thing mine did, or mine experienced what his did.
Oh.
So it's hard to explain right now what happened. Not quite sure if we got skinwalkered or whether it was a failure of a battery or a failure of a motor, but it was definitely strange. And you couldn't see it in the video, but we did almost hit a tree. This particular drone that we're getting another of has a detect and avoid camera on the front, so it can see a mile away and detect airplanes and objects that are in the air to help it. So it's designed for beyond visual line of sight flying, so we could fly miles and miles away.
Wow.
And so we started the scanning of the entire ranch, and when the bird came back, something haywire happened, and it came to the ground hard. It bounced, it came back up again, and for safety reasons and to keep Pete's head on, I cut it. So
I squealed.
He squealed.
I squealed.
That was the diamond making.
Was this on a pre-programmed flight that it was doing, or?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a fully autonomous bird.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
but hopefully,
a very expensive piece of equipment smashes into the helipad, you squeal.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about the dollar value of
the dollar value?
Yeah.
I think the drone itself is about $80,000, and the sensor, the LiDAR sensor, is $115,000.
Oh my gosh!
So it's fine.
Add that up and slam it into a helipad.
No wonder you squealed.
Yeah.
I want
see
to
if you
squeal on
squeal.
your behalf. That is.
Yeah, there were lots of gemstones out there on the helipad after that event.
Yeah.
Oh no!
The sensor's fine. We're going to use it tomorrow.
Oh, that's good. Phew.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a lot of flying tomorrow with that thing.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So what you're saying is that things don't just go wrong when the cameras are rolling for the show.
Oh,
Stuff
cool.
happens all the time.
Yeah, Pete has said it many times. The ranch eats drones, and that's not an exaggeration. There's just something going on in the electromagnetic environment. Certainly, we have difficulties with GPS, as we talk about a lot, and this specter that we call EMI, or electromagnetic interference. It's not clear in any given instance which one of those is driving the outcome, but we do see lots of drone parts on the ground.
Yeah, there's definitely risk and reward. We know the risk, but the reward is great if it's successful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And that was day one.
yeah, that's
That was day one.
You're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now? Well,
The
you
ranch says, "Welcome back."
Yeah.
I know. I was going to say that. Welcome back, Pete.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. But fortunately, things have been working quite a bit more smoothly since.
You had to say that out loud.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you watch tomorrow on social media.
No.
Yeah.
no.
So, Bobby, is this your first? Is this your first trip? Probably not, but I mean, your first trip.
Let's see. I was on episode 13 of season 5.
That's right toward the end of the season.
Hanging around in the back,
Yeah.
doing a few things. So can't
okay,
really
so-
talk about what I did because, yeah.
Did Pete talk to you about packing extra socks?
Extra socks?
Yeah.
Just have thermal socks.
Well, just in case, because there's been occasions of brown socks, in the past.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
These guys have been working together for
I
a
was
while.
hoping to surprise him.
okay.
I'm kidding. I was hoping he'd just say, "Man, look what happened to my socks."
No.
So Todd Berg is asking if the 1.6 gigahertz is still the culprit for GPS interference. Can you set up the GPS receivers to exclude the L1 band?
We haven't taken out the L1, but it's not clear that 1.6 gigahertz is interfering with the GPS. We talk about it a lot. I'm not surprised that this question has come up in this discussion as it has in so many others. It's the behavior of that peak. It's not that it's there. It's the way it behaves that really has our attention. It meanders around. Is it the culprit? I just don't think so. I think there's more to the story.
How far underground was your drone this afternoon?
40 feet.
Wait, where was this?
We didn't tell you?
You didn't tell me.
Oh, we should have told them.
What?
At the East Field.
Oh, you were in. Okay.
With the big hybrid.
Okay. So I thought it was 40 feet underground.
Initially, and I was getting a GPS error constantly.
Okay.
It just was not getting a good signal.
Yeah, you probably radioed that over, but I just couldn't hear it because we had so much static. Like I say, there's a lot of EMI in this environment.
Yeah. Well, speaking of magnetic stuff, and I wanted to bring this point up to you as well, and I have no idea, really, honestly, I'm talking from a little bit of ignorance on all of this, but the magnetic north and it's cruising towards Siberia as it is that affecting, could that have any effect on what you guys are doing, or is that, they say it's moving again. It's been moving at different speeds as the magnetic north changes. And I didn't know if that,
it moves all the time, constantly. It's a bit of a tricky thing to explain, really. Magnetic north, as the name suggests, is where the compass points.
Right.
And because the poles are always in motion, it's always in motion. It changes a lot. True north, on the other hand, is basically the easiest explanation is that's GPS.
Okay.
Yeah. Or magnetic north kind of went out with, I don't know, in the 80s when GPS finally came to the commercial forefront. And so now navigation is almost always true north because that's what all the tech is based on.
Okay.
So when we're speaking of true north, we're talking about the spin axis of the Earth. And that's not the same as the magnetic north. Here at the ranch, the difference is about 10.9 degrees. If you're looking at a compass. So it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the technology that you guys are bringing to bear does not reference to magnetic north.
No.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah,
that's really the point.
Okay.
Yeah. We were really worried about that because we sort of inadvertently opened up Pandora's box. Like, how in the world are we going to explain magnetic versus true? And we went round and round about that. And it was just the origin story. It was just Thomas being the smart, creative, innovative guy that he is. The monument, the concrete platform that he made for the monuments is in the shape of an X. And just under his own, volition, he's like, I'm going to orient the X to the north. And hey, that's a creative idea. Why wouldn't we do it?
Right.
There have been quite a few questions about this in the days since we started pouring.
Oh God, yeah, I've had to go back to school to try to figure out how to explain it.
Yeah, and I mean, otherwise you might imagine for the purpose of putting those monuments where we have, we could have just drilled a cylindrical hole, right? We could have created a symmetric foundation for those monuments. We just added the feature of orienting these X-shaped concrete slabs. And it kind of serves as a time capsule because, of course, as magnetic north continues to move, we'll see deviations from the alignment that we've chosen.
Well, we also use targets in photogrammetry, LiDAR, almost all of it. That's what we reference to. So the big axes are visual references for us from the air.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have a lot of different applications for you. Wow. Very interesting. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Go ahead, Mike.
I was thinking another example that came up in discussion was the property lines, the fence lines that are quite old here on the ranch. They clearly predate GPS technology. So they were undoubtedly set with a compass and set to magnetic north. They're not anymore. It's so it can be like, what's going on? It's just magnetic north doing what it does.
Right. Because I know you guys have had some problems in the past with compasses on the ranch, especially when the drill rig was going on in the triangle, and then you had some compasses were pointing at north and some were pointing at the drill rig. And that was befuddling, I guess. So was the drill rig was creating its own magnetic north there for a bit while it's in contact with the water or something? I don't know. That was strange.
That seems like a reasonable speculation. We don't have confirmation that that's what's going on at all. One of the strangest things I've ever witnessed is putting the old school compasses on the ground away from any metal, as far as we know, and watching the needle drift. And this is something that, if you remember Junior Hicks, he talked about having observed this.
Yeah.
Of course, he's passed away in the years since I became acquainted with him, but he sat at this table with me and described exactly the things that we have seen now for ourselves, which is the compass needle drifting. Now, it's interesting the way he said it. He says, when you see that happening, it's time to leave.
Do you have one that's set that doesn't move for you to keep an eye on? Just like a normal compass set in one area?
We have magnetometers located around the ranch, which give us effectively that information. Yeah, if you mean don't move in the sense that we don't relocate them, yes. Yeah, but
I just mean like keeping it in place. Have an eye on something
at several locations, yes.
Interesting. And has there been any predisposing factors or anything like that you can start to predict when it's going to change? Are there any environmental things that occur or events on the ranch that predict, or that you found a trend with to say, maybe we can expect this to move a little bit?
I don't know if we could say they are predictors, but there is correlation, meaning that if something's affecting a handheld device, we'll see other things happening in the environment. Case in point, and I think the guys have talked about this. We saw what happened with that calf. Whatever that was clearly some kind of energetic event. It was accompanied by a temporary deviation of magnetic north in a very localized area. That's really, really puzzling.
Absolutely. I can only imagine.
Yeah, the M in EMI.
Yeah.
Magnetic.
Exactly. Ellie or Ashley is asking a question. Do you have any personal experience to suggest his Junior Hicks's time to leave advice is valid? Any unusual experiences that correlate?
Ooh, that's a good question. Now you're making me wish I'd followed up on what he said. What do you mean, Junior? What do you mean by time to leave? And what happens if you don't? I think it's a little late for me to be asking that question.
The damage is done.
Yeah. The damage is done for sure. Oh my gosh.
Reminds me, we heard something.
Yeah. You want to talk about it?
Over to you. I'm still shook up by it.
As part of our preparations, locating the monuments and getting them aligned. When Pete and I were driving to one of the locations, we got out of the vehicle, stepped out and heard. I think this is what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We heard someone speaking as if right at the fence line, which would be to the south of our position. So there's, where all the scrub starts, all the Russian olive trees, and we looked at each other. Did you hear that? Yeah, there was a guy speaking, but I couldn't make out what was being said, and that was a stand and search for a good 5 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
We never found the source of that sound, but that's been in the last few days. Now, what's interesting about this is an experience not far from the Triangle, in an area where others have told us they've heard as if booming voices, even laughter coming out of that thicket. We couldn't locate a source.
Yeah. So the segue happening, that's when I was ready to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of, and I got to hand it to you guys, because with all the things that have happened on Skinwalker Ranch over the years, and some of the medical things with Thomas, and even with Travis having the radiation burns and such, and yet you keep coming back time and time again to do more exercises and to try to figure this out. And I got to hand it to you guys. That's yeah, go ahead.
I feel like to say that they come back is to imply that they leave, and I know that Erik doesn't.
Well,
so
that's true. Yeah.
I'm not sure that applies anymore. Maybe for everybody else. I feel like Erik is now a
He has a
monument of the
bond with
ranch in a
Ranch.
way.
Fixture.
Yeah, for better or worse, you're a part of it now.
You said it.
Hey, but I got him off. I got him off the ranch last week. We went into Vernal to the Walmart. It was great.
Oh, to the Walmart.
Yeah,
All right.
I got to get supplies, right?
it was fun.
Oh, there's
I
Chris
would have liked to
Bartell.
have seen that. We needed a GoPro for that adventure to see Erik Bard in the wild.
Yeah. In the wild. Oh, that's pretty funny.
I can think of much more entertaining content.
I don't know. I feel like
Yeah,
it would be pretty
I don't know.
entertaining to see you at a Walmart.
Yeah.
Yep, that was Chris Bartell, by the way, saying Erik Bard is true grit. Salute.
I do what I got to do.
It's a fact.
He's giving me more credit than I deserve. Hello to Chris Bartell. How's it going, man?
So, some of the, again, and I'm gonna step back to last season again for just a moment. And again, I don't know how much you can talk to us about all of this, but you had mentioned to us before, Erik, that you were working on. Matter of fact, we did a little segment where you showed when you were on the podcast last. You talked about the light garden, and I was wondering again if this is something you can't really talk about or not. But how have you been able to progress with that at all? The creation or the actual implementation of the light garden?
Yeah. That's a great subject. For those who are not familiar, we're talking about what would essentially be an array of identical instruments distributed across the property. I think it's a very natural, even intuitive thing to say, well, look, if I've got a handheld device at some location and it's changing, might the changes that I'm seeing at a certain location and time be part of a larger pattern in space and time? And so the light garden conceptually is a almost impractical, but probably very expensive undertaking that would distribute identical. We've talked about magnetometers, so identical instruments, magnetometers, GPS sensors, RF sensors, even gravitometers, across what might be envisioned as a grid. Well, can we do that? That takes a lot of infrastructure, a lot of expense. You've got to get the power and the data, shipped around on this 512 acre property. But what we are doing is expanding our footprint in a way that is consistent with the spirit of the light garden, which is to put these what I call multi-physics boxes. They've been brought on site through our partnership with Omnitech, and these are devices that are collecting those kinds of metrics. They're doing some edge processing, meaning there's a computer out there on the spot, and it's shipping that data back to a central location where it can be studied by pattern sensitive software like an AI.
Wow. So good. I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like it's in the works. So that's a fantastic concept. And when you showed that, you showed us a little sample of it, your concept working. My goodness, that's man, if you can get this implemented, that's phenomenal.
Tell me about it. It would be very satisfying to see that embodied in the form that I've envisioned it. But it's often the case. Our vision for things is well in advance of reduction to practice, meaning actual implementation. So I'm anxious, but I'm also having to be patient.
As we all are as well, because I'd love to see that come into place, because if something as anomalous came in and moved across the ranch, that's where those sensors would all be going off, showing it like affecting them in some way, right?
Yes, and in a way that is telling us something about the time characteristic of whatever's happening, as well as the spatial distribution of the effect. Think of it as mapping and visualization. That's really what the Light Garden aspires to do for us, and we're getting there. We're putting more sensors out across the property. We are doing similar things with the mapping that's going on. Currently, what we're all doing for the last several days is it's not exactly getting every point at the same instant in time, but we are doing a kind of rastered scanning across the property. When I can, I'm putting instruments on the drones.
Yep. And that's and I know the GPSs, and they're still having some issue with that as well.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out exactly why they're dropping out in certain places and in repeatable. You showed that at the end of last season when you were in the offices with Brandon there, and you were talking about, you were showing the pathway in the in and then the out points and then back in the mesa, and how each one of those paths had the breaks in the same points in the same places in the GPS tracking, and that's repeatable. And it's like, why? What in the world is causing something like that to happen? And I'm sure that investigation is still underway, right? I mean,
it is, and without going into too much detail, following up on that and other things that we've talked about in the public facing work is a major driver for what we're doing lately in these recent days.
Oh, fantastic. I see a lot of people in the chat are asking about the wolf in the creek.
The dire wolf, yeah.
The dire wolf in the creek, or, that was found. That anything on that we can talk about at all, or any further news on that?
It's the latter part of your question that's problematic. That we can talk about.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, folks. Sorry. I saw a lot of the chat going by. What about the wolf? What about the wolf? Well, there you go.
It would be fantastic. When we get to the point where we can have Ben Woodruff sitting here at the table, that's going to be fun.
All right. Good. Yeah. Stay tuned. Tuned. No, don't feel free to say stay tuned, because that's, I know that was in preparation for tonight. That was one of the things that I thought, oh my gosh, what do I ask them that they can even talk about?
Yep.
I'm tempted to talk about. Did we mention the scat? Yes.
You feel free to talk about the scat.
The scat. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Please tell us about the scat.
Okay. Parents might ask the children to leave the room. So we were out flying today on, we call it Winterton Road, which is the road that goes off the driveway up to the East Field. And we're, Bobby and I are doing our thing, and we lost an Allen wrench key. So we're trying to find it and, cursing and impatient. And all of a sudden, there's this rather large pile of scat that is not a cow, not
even a coyote.
Not even a coyote, because the dimensions were such that whatever this thing is had a sphincter about the size of a grapefruit. And
wow.
I just was like, I was like, Bobby, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Anyway.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, really. What were you thinking, Pete?
I was thinking about.
We can't talk about it.
Oh my!
Wow. No, I feel like you have to now.
Yeah.
Defer to stay tuned. Right.
Well, the segue is whatever that thing was in the creek
was not normal.
Sure seems to be canine. I think that's safe to say.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And quite large. And so was this scat. So I'll leave it at that.
Wow. It was quite.
That was just today.
That was today. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, a good thing nobody stepped in it, at least I don't think, right? So you got to get a sample though and send it in. That's just what you do.
I'm not paid to do that. No.
Well, that's what the Bigfoot folks do, and you worked with them. You got to get a sample and send it in. So, or give it over to
We should.
Russ
Oh, serious,
Lightfoot.
we should.
Russell Accord, yeah.
Yeah, we start with photographic evidence.
Yeah, we should look at them.
Yeah.
What?
Welcome to real-time science, folks.
Yeah, get on the fly. Right.
We just
It's
had
all
an
the time.
idea, and it's
We
a
just
good
had an
one.
idea.
Oh, all right, good. Well, I'm glad.
Just requires rubber gloves and a Ziploc bag.
There you go. Yeah. See.
Take a gallon bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a gallon bag. Yeah, one of those big. Yeah. Ziplocs. Yeah.
I don't think I'm ever going to get the visual of you saying a sphincter the size of a grapefruit out of my head.
I have no filter.
Oh.
Thanks for that.
Michelle said it couldn't have been from the white horse that's been breaking through the fence this week. Too big for that? Question mark.
No, and horse scat is very identifiable.
It is. Yep. Mhm. And this wasn't. So that's all right. Well, okay. So moving along. Let's talk about your dome. You had your terrestrial laser scanner going last year a couple of different times, and you came up with this dome that was seen over the ranch. And there were some different thoughts that were brought up about this dome, what it could be. Now, that terrestrial laser scanner, and correct me if I'm wrong, it needs to bounce off of something to be able to show something, correct? I know that's
Essentially.
absolutely simplified, because I don't get much deeper than that on it, but that was crazy. And that happened twice, right? Repeatable, that you had a dome show up.
Stay tuned.
Oh, more. Okay. Okay. Because, and I know that somebody had said, I think it was actually Jay Stratton had said something about the fact that, or are we being observed? Are you guys in some sort of a bubble and you guys are being observed and studied there at the ranch? And that brings up all kinds of terrifying thoughts for me anyway, for you guys. That you would be being observed by something, by the ranch intelligence.
I mean, if you are being observed, they're
If you are
watching you
being
look at
observed,
stat
right.
and see your equipment
Yeah.
explode.
Well, I think I understand the tie-in to the structure. You know what? I caution myself and share with others the following. You know, I say what we're looking at is a structure in the data. You know, and there are several, I think, plausible explanations for what we're seeing. One is, of course, that it is doing exactly what you just said, Jeff, which is that we've got a laser that's going out beyond the normal range of the instrument and returning to the instrument, indicating some kind of an interface, a boundary. That's one interpretation. That's the at face value interpretation. You know, there's also the possibility that there's something interfering with the instrument and effectively incepting and injecting the result into the data, which is also just as interesting, if not more so. You know, anytime we see some kind of structured, orderly, seemingly deliberate change to the data that we're expecting to see, that certainly gets my interest. So whether we're talking about something that's out there, as I like to say, in objective reality, or whether it's something that's been somehow put into the data, that I think that's the stay tuned part. That's the part that you know, we don't want to hasten to draw conclusions. And I can just, you know, at high level, I can tell you that you better believe that revisitation of that question is among our priorities in these recent days.
Fantastic. That's good. Yeah. I mean, there were so many different things like that. And even the laser, when the laser was shooting straight up into the sky, and then it ended, it had a cap on it. Like, oh, wait a second. Why is it doing that? It should be extending far beyond that. And again, you're looking at what's blocking it. And I know that there was some other situations that we've seen over the years of the experiments that you guys have done where it does look like something is I'm going to say invisible to the naked eye, that is causing some sort of an obstruction or like an object is there, but you can't see it. And I know that Mike has an example
Yeah.
of this that he may want to share with us too.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
talk
it
about
was-
yeah,
go ahead.
The drone, the drone that struck something.
Yeah, it was the first person view drone that was being
Yeah,
flown
yeah.
by the one young guy that had
Sure.
when Sky Elements was there
Yeah,
and they
let me
were
pull
doing
that
the
up real
drone
quick.
formation.
I
He's going
just knew Mike had either a prop or a visual or something.
he always does.
He's always got.
Shannon-
He always
Shannon
does. I come
expects it.
unprepared.
Yeah.
Shannon
do
expects it, so
expect
I try to,
I appreciate it.
All right, he's going to bring up something here that I'm
sad.
going to display for you. Okay, here we go. Yeah, right there. Okay. So explain what we're looking at.
And yeah, and I don't remember exactly which episode this was. I'm sure somebody out there probably does, but one of the many times you had, I think about 1,000 drones out, and in this particular case, I think about 800 of them weren't able to fly. So you put up about 200 in a straight line, and then this picture, this view is from the first-person view drone that was being flown by one of the guys around these other drones and through them. And at some point, it appeared to, or sounded like it maybe struck something and then tumbled down and landed in the rocks. And if, as I went back through, and I know that you're probably horrified to know that I do occasionally watch the entire show in slow motion because it's the only way to catch some stuff. And
It is, I know. Yep.
so you can see the array of drones on the ground, and you can see the line of the ones in the sky. And as you click through, it's spinning over and over. You can see the entire array still on the ground. The array is still on the ground, but now there's something blocking the view so that you can't see some of them. So there's something between the drone camera and the ground where the array of drones is on the ground. And it's not always there. It shows again here, there's even more of it blocked out. There's something in the way. The next, you can see many of these, there's nothing. But in the beginning and then right here, there's a little bit more out on the edge. You can see that something was in the way. So something that it hit, I mean, it sounded like it hit something. The drone itself looked like this after it came out of the rock pile.
I remember it well.
So the GoPro presumably is the video footage that we were just looking at, because this camera is for the operator to be able to see where he's flying. So this may have spun or turned. It looks like it's hard mounted and should only either point forward, maybe angle up or angle down. I'm not sure if it could turn all the way to see one of the props in the side. But either way, you know something happened, because either you saw whatever it was that hit it was in the way, or something hit it hard enough to turn the GoPro and see the side props. Either way, you know it hit something because of what you saw in that footage.
So those little blockouts in on the ground is every time it made that spin as it was tumbling,
because it tumbled.
It
right.
saw that something was blocking the view of the drones that were sitting on the ground. And I don't know if you guys ever noticed that, or if that was something that you went back and took a look at, but it certainly looks like something is blocking their view. Now, what in the world?
Let me answer your question with a question, Mike.
Sure.
What impression does this missing light data give you of the shape of whatever that something is? What geometric form do you infer from that?
So this one's probably the best one. That looks like the arm of the drone to me, which would mean that the camera somehow turned or flipped all the way backwards, because that arm, I mean, you see the motor, there's kind of a blob at the end and then a long shaft. But again, in order for that to happen, this had to be impacted. Otherwise,
had
it would
to
be stay
lose.
looking forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's important to, for the sake of everyone in the discussion, we look for things like stroboscopic effects. You've got sampling rates that may not line up. You've got a sampling rate on the imaging sensor. You may have something in motion that you can't make out as a physical, like a solid object, but its effect on whatever's behind it can be evidenced. And I think that's what you're getting at, is that some part of the drone structure seems to be obscuring our view of those lights. Am I reading you right?
Yes. That, to me, that would be the most likely. But again, for that to have happened, it had to have hit something. And what was the thing that it hit? That's even more interesting to me.
Definitely not a first time that question's coming up. I think you've heard that question raised in the context of our rocket launches. How many of our launches have ended in catastrophic failure, where one possible explanation is that we're running into something physical that's maybe only fleetingly present.
Yep.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, good catch, Mike.
Yeah.
Then
I really like the support that gives to watching the docu-series very closely. I like that.
I know multiple, at least in talking to the other insiders, there's multiple people that watch each episode several times, because the first time you go through, you're just listening to what you guys are saying, what you're doing. The second time, you're looking in the background to see what's going on. And then the third time, maybe you're watching it in slow-mo because you're really interested in every little detail that you want to try and catch in the background. I may know a couple of guys that do that kind of thing. So that's helpful. The other thing that seems to come up often, we've already talked about it, is the interference, both with LiDAR and with GPS. And in my free time, because it's hard to keep up with Shannon and all her learning that she does, I've been reading a paper by the Tedesco brothers called Long Delay Echoes, Anomalous Propagation of Radar Signals Under the Influence of Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. The Tedesco brothers are out on the East Coast using marine radar and watching drones and things out over the ocean, and they're getting delayed radar signatures coming back in the quantity of seconds, which is ridiculously long. And so they will see an object that's unknown, sometimes only through infrared, and behind it will be like a tanker going by. And the signature or the radar going out and coming back takes longer than it should. And the tanker appears to be in the radar further back. So what they're talking about is gravitational lensing, which is potentially responsible for slowing down that signature because it's having to go around an object, an anomalous object of some kind. Very detailed information, excellent written paper, lots of information on the equipment, and then sort of goes through their conclusions. But similar to what we often see, at least the effect of on Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, well, as I said, Mike, you make a very good argument in favor of combing over every detail of what you can see in the documentary footage. The process that you described is very similar to my own engagement with the surveillance footage in the early going with this work. Scrub through it, watch it through at normal speed, or even scrub through it at accelerated speed. Look for certain points of interest, and go back on a frame by frame by frame basis. I think you have to do that sort of thing if there's to be any hope of getting insights into the kinds of delays that you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah. And that's something that most of us that are really interested in what's going on out there. And there's a lot of people, the show is very popular. If you guys haven't already noticed, but the thing of it is that you are groundbreaking with what you're doing out there. And I think I applaud you guys for doing it and having the courage to do it, but also the tech you're bringing on board. And that's why so many of us are so interested in watching this and looking at, like Mike said, I go through it very meticulously again because we review the show and talk about we try to go a little bit deeper into what you guys are doing than the 42 minutes that we get on the each program. It's hard to do, but and it's and a lot of times we have to speculate, on what's happening there, because we just don't get that information, from that 42 minutes sometimes. It's painstaking, but that's the way it is. And I know that at some point when this docu-series is done and you've found the mothership underneath the mesa, whatever it may be, that you can then talk about much more of all of this. And I can't wait for that day. I know that Pete's probably going to write his own book, and maybe Erik, you've got your own book coming to help us understand exactly what took place over this whole series.
Yeah, you're describing what I thought would be the normal trajectory of this work. Before we got involved in televised work, I imagined that we would do, I say this a lot, vet the inherited narrative, go point for point through the things that have been handed down, and see if we find anything that aligns with that, and then perhaps at the end of it publish what I call a coffee table book and call it good. Obviously, we've taken a very different course through this work.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you have.
It occurs to me to give a shout out to Brandon, because the reason that Bobby and I are here is, if he was here, he could say it better than I could, but the science goes on. The science is not dependent on the docu-series. There is, right. And I think that speaks volumes for how this work is, what's the right word? Embraced internally. I mean, it's, if ever there's evidence that this isn't entertainment, we're sitting right here, Mm-hmm. There's nothing in this for us, right? Other than we've seen some weird stuff and we want to understand it, just like everybody else listening to the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I'm excited to. Sorry.
So I love the fact, and thank you, Brandon, for saying, get your butts out there and get to work.
Yep. Absolutely. We are too. Go ahead, Shannon.
I was just going to say, I'm really excited to see some of the updated technology that you were referencing earlier, because, we often think about how technological growth has been exponential. And so obviously when this problem set was first presented, even with an inherited, narrative, that you've now got better technology to investigate it. And so I'm excited to hear about how the investigation's coming together even more fruitfully, I imagine, because of the new technology you sort of touched on earlier and almost referenced maybe you had something to show. I don't know if you still do.
Oh, yeah. We're ready when you are.
We got to do it. You got to see this stuff.
Okay, we're ready.
Us the data.
Yeah, we want to see it.
Yeah, we love to see it. Yes.
To touch on the technology side, battery technology is changing, and that's going to tremendously change everything that we do. It's going to keep the drones in the air longer. It's going to power better sensors, but the sensors have gotten lighter. They've gotten faster, so we can fly faster, cover more ground, fly higher within reason, depending on what the FAA says to us. And so there's a lot. I mean, I think about just shutter speeds and of these cameras now. And so
the thing I've been thinking about this week, we touched on the terrestrial laser scanner. So the scanner I've been using here now is, 7 years old, and I have a new one, but in order to repeat experiments, we have to use the same gear.
Yeah.
The reason it's great to be here now, because we can use the old, we can use the new, we can look for differences. It's just more data points.
Yeah.
So,
and if you see that mysterious dome with the old one, and then you also see it with the new one.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, that's
very, very interesting. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to bring.
I mean,
go ahead.
Even if you don't, that's another the lack of information or lack of evidence
Yeah,
and
lack of
new
data
stuff
is
is
still
information
data.
too. Yeah.
Right. Right. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
You are looking at this is a 2-dimensional ortho photo. That just means thousands and thousands of photos Bobby flew the other day, all stitched together.
Wow.
Wow.
Very high resolution. 2-dimensional. That's streaming okay?
Yes, it is. Yeah, very
Yep.
well.
Fantastic.
So right away, so tick one box. We now have current 2-dimensional, high resolution photographic data of the entire property.
Wow.
And I can show you some of the new stuff. The first monument we set.
Oh,
Right,
that is-
right there.
So that's a point for us to tighten up the accuracy.
That point.
Right.
Mhm.
And then there's 2 more. I have to run out here when
Triangle.
we're done.
Yeah.
Right at the triangle. We tried to center it up as best we could.
Yep.
And then we thought this would be a good idea. Let's set another one exactly 100 meters due south.
Okay.
So we have 2 known points that we can then measure over and over long after we're gone too. These are permanent to see if the dimension from there to there is shifting. So that's 2D.
Wow.
Wow.
Where am I here? Oh, right. So this is fun. I like this stuff.
Like those.
This one. This is multispectral imagery, often referred to as MSI, multispectral imagery. We've used this before on the ranch. Remember that episode? We found some lines over here. Well, obviously, we now have the entire ranch, and I want to show you a few things we think are interesting.
Okay.
This is the East Field.
Yep. That's the end point, right?
This is, well,
Or
do
close.
you see this shape that sort of looks like an egg?
Yes.
That's not visible to the naked eye.
Oh.
And that happens to be the spot where the photogrammetric spire happened a couple of years ago.
Oh.
So we just saw this today. We haven't really dived into the data. There might be an explanation that makes sense. There might be something that doesn't. So that one interests us a lot. There is a couple of surprises down here in the south field. See if I can find it.
It's right on the border.
See, now I can't see it.
There you go.
Yeah. So this, to me, looks like a rectangle.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Because this is the weird thing about the human eye. We naturally look for patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be very careful.
Down and to the right. There was another one that you pointed out earlier.
This one?
You should, further to the right. Keep going. There.
This one.
Yeah, you pointed that out earlier today.
I forgot about it. There's been a lot. And there's another one right here. I mean, right angles like that don't occur naturally. So for anyone listening that doesn't know what multispectral imagery does, as the name suggests, it shows light, frequencies of light we can't see with the naked eye. Erik can explain this much better than I can. And it's typically used in agriculture to determine the health of plants.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really cool about it is plants that grow over soil that's been disturbed refract light differently than plants growing over soil that hasn't. So you can tell where people have been digging. So that's just a few of the things we found so far, because this just finished processing today. But we're going to tear through this. There's all kinds of ways to look at it, different color schemes, etc. But
Yeah, we have the bird right over here with the camera on it.
if you want to pick it up,
Pick it up and show it. But
well,
the multispectral camera that we used has 2 bands of visible light, red and green, as well as infrared and near infrared. And it also takes pictures. So those are the bands we get, and we can play with those different bands and create our own formulas even to pull out things we may want to see. Did you see that spiral of stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, I think we all just noticed that
Right
at the same
there.
time.
To the right.
Right,
Very crops are
Yeah.
right there.
You know, again, as Pete has shared, this is all very hot off the presses.
Yeah.
And you know, we're looking at this. This is as close to real time as you get in a format like a podcast. But we are actively collecting data sets like this, looking for insights into anything that has anything of other than what Mother Nature tends to volunteer. So if there's been any digging, any excavation, any prior structures, habitation, you name it. If there's anything unusual going on, that's what this multispectral imaging promises to show us in ways that visible light cannot.
Yep. I'm going to play you a video, and I have to figure out how to do that.
Now you're sharing a window, so you'll probably have to switch over to that video window.
Where's the share control?
Yep.
Sorry, everyone. Bear with me.
Oh, that's okay. You take your time to get it. I can pull this down if you want to.
Stop.
Oh, there you go.
That's okay. That's what I wanted to do.
All right.
Thank you for showing this to us.
Yeah,
and to everybody
we
who's tuning
really
in.
appreciate that. I know there's been a lot of people too. There's a few of us that are interested in Oak Island, and I've been talking on the podcast because it's on that show is in season right now, and we've been talking about how you really need the guys need to bring you out there really, really bad because
There it is. Thank you.
your work is needed out there, Bobby and Pete, big time because. Photogrammetry and for some LiDAR work over the entire island. Anyway.
Yeah.
This is really good. Can you see the ranch here in sort of hues of brown?
There we go. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a video. I'm going to hit play. I can move this thing out of the way.
Slide it over.
.3D.
Wow. Look at that.
We're really proud of this.
Oh my goodness.
I want this in VR goggles.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Stay tuned.
Yep. That's definitely
Stay
a
tuned.
Yes.
Ooh,
I'll play it again.
virtual ranch
incredible.
tours.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
So this is
Oh my
the
gosh.
entire property in 3D, accurate in XYZ. We haven't typed it up using our new monuments yet. So what you're looking at is probably 3 centimeters, maybe 4, but we'll get it down to 1.
Wow.
Do we want to say a few words about how this data was collected
Yeah,
recently? You
good-
want to
good
talk about
call.
how we got this
Yeah, Bobby, go ahead.
model?
Yeah, same drone, the EDX with the Soda 3D camera on it. So it's basically an SLR type camera that shoots nadir straight down and then shoots to the left and then shoots to the right. And it just makes the passes. And I don't know if anybody was watching me out there doing that, but we were launching it's the one we launched with our hands, and it lands on its belly and it looks like a bird when it's flying in the air. It's a very graceful, mesmerizing thing to watch. And you tried to chase it.
Yes, many of our insiders saw my skills on display or my lack thereof. I described trying to chase a fast-moving target like Bobby's drone is, trying to work with an Etch-a-Sketch in the sky. But we did get some good video of the flight.
It was an admirable effort, Erik.
It was.
Much
I thought you did a
appreciated.
great job, actually.
Yeah. There were, well, where you have multiple controls to work with, like focus, zoom,
Right.
and of course the pan control. You got to choose one or the other. So you can often lose a dynamic target like that. So here is the flight platform.
Oh, look at that.
Not super big, but
Wow.
this is the multispectral sensor.
And what was the ground speed on this?
It flies at about, it depends on the weather conditions, but about 25 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And because that's fixed wing, it's got a longer flight time.
Yeah, and it's super, you saw me pick it up. It's a styrofoam composite and super lightweight, very efficient. The prop literally bends away because it belly lands. So it's, I love this thing. I use this in ag all the time. So this is a great bird. And then, the big one is kind of a EB on steroids. It's more of a plain looking format, same kind of compressed styrofoam, and can carry a lot more weight. So
Was that the one that met its demise?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Hey, Jeff, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I put a video up on LinkedIn of walking around Homestead 2 at night.
Yes.
A stroke of genius that Erik had a few days ago.
Uh-huh.
Do you have that video, Andy?
I can certainly bring it up. Yes.
Okay, because forgive me, I don't know what I've done with it.
All right. Yeah. Let me bring that up here.
I thought for the folks who haven't seen it, we could talk about what's going on there because
Okay.
it's such an amazing visual.
It
of
really
how
truly
LiDAR
was.
works.
Yeah.
All right. So let me get you here. There we go. Okay, that's on yours. Let's see, Pete. There you are. I love that shot that you got there with you hanging out of the Cameron's helicopter with the slam scan in your lap. That was pretty.
Fun times.
You got to do what you got to do to get the data, right?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. All right. Let's see here. Nighttime scanning Homestead 2. Okay, here we go. All right. So I'm going to. All right. Thanks for letting me do this. And and I have to ask in one of the pictures, and you may not be able to. I know that people will ask. Let me get this presented here.
Thanks for your patience, everyone. You'll like it.
Yeah.
Trust me, it'll be
Yes.
worth the wait.
Yeah, this was cool. I remember watching this when stuff was going on here. So this is great stuff. Let's see. All right. So here we go. Screen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
This machine.
okay. All right. So what we're looking at, just to kind of set this up, this down here in the corner is Homestead 2. And as soon as I hit play, because I've watched this a couple times actually already, and then so there's these funny lines of lights that are out here. We'll leave that alone for the moment. So watch down here, and then it'll change as we go along.
And Erik can talk you through this, what you're seeing.
Yeah, so you're one of the nice things about what we call the night mode that we use with our surveillance assets is that they are sensitive to the wavelengths of light that are produced by LiDAR instruments like the SLAM scanner. So you see Caleb carrying the Emissent device, the SLAM scanner, in a backpack configuration. And really, he's just walking through the area, painting it with this laser light. And you can see the stripes there. You can see the strobing effect. Here he approaches the interior of Homestead 2. I was hanging out inside, and you can already see where the laser is intersecting with the geometry of the structure, and it's returns from those surfaces that then form the basis of what we call the point cloud, the three-dimensional model. And so none of this light that we're seeing is visible to the naked eye, but it is visible to our cameras when they have what's called the IR cut filter removed from the optical path. And so when you put a surveillance camera in that mode, it will see this kind of light, which is essentially near infrared.
Making the invisible visible.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Erik Bard.
Now we know what happened. There was go ahead.
Flashes of white light in the distance. That's the range of the laser and how far it's going. A little tweak going on.
Yeah, it's one thing to talk about this sort of thing academically, use all kinds of words, but it's another thing entirely to see it. And I feel like this is enjoyable, but it's also educational. To see how the instrument works. And so when you go back to the point cloud that is produced from this, you can literally see those individual scan lines if you dial in close enough. Each one of those dots in the point cloud has a time associated with it, and so I really like to study our point clouds, not just in terms of the spatial model, but also in terms of how the laser light went out and returned to the instrument at each slice of time.
Wow. Now I remember when
results.
When Homestead 2 was attempted to be scanned once before, and that didn't turn out so well. You had this was a few seasons back, and I think Erik, it was you walking with it into Homestead 2 in your hand, and there was some parts missing from the data I think that was explained at some point. What happened there? It wasn't the fault of anything anomalous, correct? Is that?
Yeah, we fixed that. It was a great example of, we saw it in real time. The cameras are rolling. We were all excited, especially me, because I'd never, that's not possible. I watched Erik scan that room. But then, I don't know, days, weeks later, it was fixed. So
it's my understanding that something cut the data into pieces. Is that correct? There was an interruption.
It had to be.
Okay.
Yeah. Got one other bit I can show you.
Okay. Could Erik look creepier? Now that's really Angie. Come on,
lurking in the corner.
I mean, I agree. I wasn't expecting him to be in the corner there when it flashed, and he's just lurking.
He doesn't move. He's just standing very still.
Hanging out in total darkness too.
Lurking.
What?
Yeah.
Caleb knew you were in there, right?
About that little blip that you saw.
Caleb was running the scanner. He was walking with it. And actually, yeah, Mike, you make a great point. It was total darkness.
Darkness.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering, did
Erik's
Caleb
not
know you
afraid.
were in there, Erik?
I've been out in that structure in dark conditions before. That's not the first time.
But did he know you were there when he was walking through there with the scanner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There's an interesting bit that doesn't necessarily show up in that clip that I found kind of puzzling. At the beginning of the work, I was actually standing in the doorway, the actual doorway through which Caleb walked. And at some point I moved away from the doorway, but when you look at the video record, it's as if I just went instantly from the one place to the other. I'm sure there's a good explanation for it. But yeah, so the idea, what I wanted to test by putting myself inside the space, I just wanted to see how clearly a human figure could be made out. Someone that's out there where the lasers are terminating and bouncing back.
Yeah, we've seen a little
Very
bit of
clearly.
evidence of the lasers bouncing off a humanoid type figure and coming back. And this was in the woods with Mr. Kelsey was walking along. Looking for a tall, hairy creature. Yeah, I remember that very, very well. I'm sure Mike does too.
Another brown sock moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually more of a diamond moment. So that scan that Caleb did,
Mm-hmm.
can you see this?
Yes, now we can. Yes, I just brought it. Oh, wow. Look at that.
Ooh,
Wow. Oh, my.
that is
goodness.
super cool.
This is a piece of software that literally you can do all sorts of rendering, visualization with point clouds, essentially data from any laser scanner. Terrestrial laser scanners, SLAM, drone LiDAR, it doesn't care. and it gives you this sort of X-ray look through buildings, through walls. Really slick.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's amazing.
So welcome to Homestead 2, inside and out.
Yeah.
See there, these guys have got to get to Oak Island.
That's
Go across,
incredible.
go across the canal. There's the carriage house.
Carriage house, yeah.
Wow.
And you can see through it.
Wow.
So we've been dying to show this to you.
Can you show where Erik was standing in Homestead 2? Does that show up on there?
No.
Okay. All right.
But he was right there in that corner.
Wow.
I'm beginning to wonder about Erik's. Maybe Erik is the secret of Skinwalker Ranch.
I was going to say
Tanya.
something about that. If an entity was to ever take over a humanoid host, would he? No, I'm not going to say it. Never mind. I'll take
Hiding in plain sight. You should have seen if things happened when he was at the Walmart.
Weird things happen at Walmart all the time.
Yeah, that's
No, I mean at the ranch when Erik is not there.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
See how tight that is?
Wow.
I love this visualization tool. This is, I have to say, this is probably one of the most, first of all, gorgeous to look at, but also insight rendering. You can look at things in various, dot densities and color schemes, and you may get more or less out of it. This has got to be the best representation I think I've ever seen of a point cloud. I am jealous.
I'm going to plug the vendor. Thank you, Bert at Nubigon.
That is fantastic visualization software.
It truly is. That's amazing stuff. And I know that when you were out at Alcatraz and you're doing national parks, when you did Alcatraz, the ability to take those scans and all the work that you and Bobby did out there and your team to be able to look for minute changes in the building structure and the island itself over time it kind of blows my mind that it could be that accurate, that could tell you what little changes take place because of weather and erosion. And it's really amazing, the technology. And how much has that changed? I mean, has it changed a lot, say in the last 10 years, 5 years? I mean, not only the software, but also the hardware.
Yes, significantly, both.
Yep.
But to bring it back here to the ranch, we can do the same thing here now with the same high degree of accuracy. The buzzword industry term is change detection.
Okay. Yeah.
So anything, right? I mean, we'll start with just simple geology. Maybe a rock rolls down the hill, rolls down the mesa. We'll be able to see that.
Yeah.
How far back and changed? I know I wanted to ask this earlier when you were talking about the light reflecting different off the plants based on if they've been digging or something. Like how far back in time does it actually reflect change?
That's great, Shannon. It's my favorite part about it. I'll answer that with a quick story. The how I heard about multispectral imagery was a guy in the UK was experimenting with multispectral over a wheat field. And he looked at the data, and there is a Roman town. 2,000 years old.
I remember reading about this.
Yes. So, to your question,
wow.
That's why we were excited to do it a couple of seasons ago. And now to have the entire ranch and to be able to pour through that's cool stuff.
You see what happens. Perhaps I don't need to say this. Maybe you already know this, and stop me if this has already been covered. But when you disturb the soil, if you put you remove the topsoil, and even if you come back and backfill with non-topsoil, or if you have maybe something with it that leaches some kind of chemical content into the soil, something that's been put in the ground. The plants, they soak that up, and of course they reflect, especially in the UV, differently from plants in the unaffected area. So the plants are the telltale sign that something has happened at that location. So you'll see the outlines of foundations and structures that are not natural, right angles, circles, and so forth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's designed to measure levels of chlorophyll in green plants. And surprise, it's an amazing tool for archaeology.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
That's when you come in with LiDAR.
Right. And
Strip
then
the trees away.
great point from Bobby is combine the MSI with the LiDAR, with the photogrammetry. You've got multiple layers of data, because it's one thing if there's something of interest in, say, the multispectral. Well, bring in the LiDAR, bring in that third dimension. Maybe that'll make it even more interesting, or validate something. Or what's the opposite of validate?
Invalidate.
Invalidate something, which is just as valuable. IR engineer.
You can probably tell that our nights have run quite late.
Yes. Well, you had a nice dinner. Was that last night? I mean, that
2 nights ago.
Yeah, 2 nights ago. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah,
It's
shout out to my buddy Ryan Meyer at Creekstone in Winfield, Kansas. Ark City. I don't want to get them upset. That's really an Ark City. Anyway, I brought a Wagyu tenderloin.
wow.
And we reverse seared it. So, butter. Garlic.
It looked great. I mean, I don't know. We saw a picture of it. It looked like
Wow.
you guys were having an
He's
awesome.
never had it before. So.
Unforgettable. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
There was, you know how you can tell when the food is really good?
Mhm.
It's silence. There's no conversation. It was absolute. We were just it was great.
Well, it's good to see that somebody's taking care of you guys out there, man. All the hard work that's going on.
I didn't need a knife.
Wow.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Maybe it was because I was doing what he just said.
Yeah, we finally got a good look at the kitchen too. I mean, the whole inside the center there. Yeah, that was really nice. And then why how else, to have a drone on the table as well while you're eating dinner. I mean, it's just fitting.
That's a de facto requirement here.
Yeah, I think it would be, yeah.
There's got to be a piece of scientific equipment on the table. You can't
Right.
eat.
Yeah, like a centerpiece. I mean, who needs a regular centerpiece? I have a piece of like high-tech equipment sitting there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I know that we got season 6 coming up, and we're all very, very excited to see what's going to happen, because like I said, last season 5 was just phenomenal. It really, really was. You guys blew us away with some of the stuff, and now here you are. All that you did was almost a year ago, as you went through the filming for that season 6 quite some time ago, and trying to go back and remember all of that. But we're really looking forward to this, and I think there's going to be 14 episodes like there was last year in this new season coming up. And man, I tell you what, I know myself and all the people that are watching right now, we are all very, very excited to see the new episodes coming out and what you guys will find. Can I, without revealing anything, can you give us an overall impression of your thoughts of what took place last season? I mean, did we have any stellar moments of brown socks?
That sounds a lot like a Pete question to me.
Give us 1 second while I whisper something in Erik's ear.
Okay, all right, because I know that's really interesting to for all of us, just wondering some of the things and following up on them from the previous year.
Well, okay, so I think I heard the words follow up. Certainly, major portions of the work that we did last summer were follow up. And I mean, it would be foolish not to make that the major thrust,
Right.
given what happened in the previous documentary season. But there are some new elements. And I'm just going to mention a word: archaeology.
Really?
There are some points of archaeological interest. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to speak out of turn, but we have this additional thrust, and I think folks are going to find that very interesting and maybe even tantalizing.
Yeah. Wow. A lot of people are jumping in the chat right now. Excellent. Wonderful. Oh,
I'm very
yeah. I
excited.
love that.
Well, I got to tell you guys, I think we've all felt this way from the beginning, and that is that, this is not simply, in fact, I remember the first day of filming, I pounded this table and I said, this is not a science project. There's more going on here. Yes, while we do a lot of science that is very heavily weighted towards physics, there are a lot of other investigational modalities that have a place here. I'm very interested. I love to take the role of a student and to learn about what can be observed from in the plant life, in the insect life, the animal life. I'm talking about the life sciences. Also, just history itself. Learning more about the history. Even though I'm a physicist, I find these things very, very fascinating. And of course, archaeology, as we just mentioned. So bringing all of that together, the more the better. Clearly, this is more than just a physics investigation.
That's great. Yeah, it truly is. I mean, archaeology. Wow, that's great. I'm really
so
happy to hear
excited.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people are. That's great. And I don't know what. Is there anything else that you can share with us about what you've been doing lately? I mean, you've certainly blown our socks off with what you've shown already. Are you right? You're wrapping up on Monday. You said that, Pete. What you're doing there.
That's when we head out. Yeah, I think it's safe to say if you're not already an insider, you probably want to be one by tomorrow night.
Oh,
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep, a lot of work's in the plan. I'm going to put you on the spot. You mentioned possibly talking about some of the things you've observed since you've been here.
Oh, yes.
Over there.
I mean, over there.
Yeah. Do you want to go into that?
Do you want to give them the backstory of what's over there?
Those who are familiar with our work and those who have heard Travis share generously about his personal experience of having his sort of his campsite, his trailer located not far from where we're sitting, which would be to the northeast of our current location, not far. I've heard some things interesting, maybe disturbing things. Travis has shared quite a bit about that. I wouldn't be surprised if he did so in this podcast. I always find it interesting when folks come and occupy that same space and come non-front loaded, as far as I understand, with very similar reports. And so that's the kind of the setup for my invitation for you to share whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I brought my trailer in this time so I could sleep and work inside of it. It's my command center. And I can tell you right off the bat, I do not feel stable in there.
Really?
It's a very lightheaded kind of, and I don't know if my trailer's not level, but all I know is I don't feel stable in there. And then the other night, I told Pete this the other day. I don't know what's scarier, walking to the bathroom out at Cell Block D at Alcatraz to get to the bathroom in pitch blackness, or walking 100 yards from my trailer to here at night. Wow. But when I walked back, got into my trailer, shut the door, and made sure I turned off the lights on there. And I could see my reflection in the left side of the window of my door. But on the right side of the window, there was this black cloaked, like you know, it was dark outside, but this was black. Like, what did you call it? That black?
I think the expression we used was darker than dark.
Darker than dark. Anyway, yeah, it was. And so I did it again just to see if something would come back, but it definitely put a shiver up my spine. And then we're in the truck the next day with Thomas, and he's telling me all about what Travis has seen over there. And then it all hit me because I didn't say anything. I'm just like, okay.
One thing that I think bears pointing out is this is, as you just heard, not front loaded.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
And to answer the question that just flew across there, yeah, it seemed like a little bit of vertigo.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
That'd be a good way to describe it. It's just kind of a dizzy, unsettling feeling that, you know, just I'm going to sit down.
Wow.
So,
And that's
yeah.
only happened in the trailer and then in your trailer. Yeah. And that's where
every day. The unsettling is every day.
Oh wow.
I wake up and it's kind of, you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to get out of here.
So the $64 question is, will you come back?
I'm not going to park there.
That's what somebody asked if you had tried moving the trailer.
Don't give me that. Don't give me that spot.
Good answer. Good answer. We can find another spot for you.
Well, repeatable though, if you move, you know, I mean, you know, scientific method. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, I find it interesting that, you know, folks come in and use that spot. We're talking about a very localized area.
Mm-hmm.
And a high fraction of those who visit and stay in that location have something of this general nature to report.
Wow.
And what does that say? That says Erik's got some work to do over there.
Yeah.
I just like that people keep staying there, that they don't choose to stay somewhere else. You guys are just like, this is the place to stay right over here. Because
Yeah. Well, there's some logistical drivers for that. I mean, there's, you know, power and so forth being over there.
Convenient.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, I didn't eat. I don't know, maybe I'm dehydrated, maybe I didn't sleep well.
Right.
But then when it does it every single time I'm in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just within the confines of the trailer, though, not outside of it.
Well,
Like
and
they
then,
do it
and
outside
then
of it.
the night that happened, when I peeked over and saw that cloaking thing, I got the bangs on the side. Of the
Oh yeah, that's right.
He left that out.
The banging on the structure.
The banging on the structure. And it was windy that night, and I parked under some of the branches that were scratching on my roof all night, so I didn't sleep. And but yeah, the banging took me by surprise. And not to sound really creepy, it was 3 bangs.
Wow.
I know that means a lot to a lot of people. So
Yeah.
So
3s. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and just like Travis, because that's what he heard too. He heard banging on the side of the trailer.
So, you know, it doesn't matter who it is. If I was going to offer a suggestion, or rather insist, if anyone else stays in that spot, bring the means to record 24/7.
I'll put cameras up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe I'll put a camera up tonight.
I think you should. I can equip you with what you need.
Yeah. I think actually Travis doesn't he? Doesn't he put cameras or have at least one on the trailer or something? And
yeah, and you know, look, I think we've shared this already in our public in the public domain. You know, there has been interference. There have been lost, you know, chunks of time, and these coincide with subjective experiences that he's had. You know, I tend not to talk a lot about my own, but I can corroborate. There's something happening. We're talking about, again, a very localized area. Now, is it because we're here? Is there something, you know, is there some geophysics playing out? Is it just some quirk of nature in this spot, or is there something potentially more insidious? I don't know, but it seems to have the same effect, and that is disturbing people's sleep, giving people that sense of being, you know, someone else being there in the space. And then, of course, there are the things that you both feel and hear. And so, you know, we get a lot of questions about that sort of thing. And, you know, every time we have someone come in, non-front loaded, not expecting anything of that nature, coming through this door and saying, "Hey, you're not going to believe what I heard or felt or saw." It just adds to the evidences that there's something off. There's something very unusual about this vicinity.
Yeah.
Did we ever look at the multispectral?
Well,
Did we ever look at the multispectral just for that area? Because we tend not to do that, right? We're always in the triangle or the east field, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to kind of just see that general area, just
Good
that
idea.
spot.
Yeah, we've got some homework to do.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Bobby, what time of night does the banging happen?
Yeah.
Is it same time of night?
This was the weird thing is the first thing I heard was a car door slam. It sounded like a car door slamming, but I knew that you guys were all out scanning with Caleb at Homestead too.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked out my window, and that's when I saw the figure thing, or whatever you want to call it, the shadow. And that's when it kind of started a little bit, and then I laid down, and then there was the banging. So
This is a strange question, but was there any
10:30.
change? Was there any smell associated with any of the activity that happened? 'Cause sometimes
Smell.
people will report smells.
I didn't.
Nothing at all.
That's a really
I
good
can
question.
remember, yeah.
That's a really good question. And for those who aren't familiar, Shannon, you want to explain why you asked that?
I mean, I asked that for a couple of reasons. One being that oftentimes people will report having some sort of smell. It's an indicator of some sort of change in the environment.
Mhm.
Also, one of the things I've been studying this year has been sort of our sensory experience and how we interact with other things. And smell is considered to be the liminal sense,
Yep.
where it exists in the space in between, so it can emanate off of one thing and sort of cross over. It can also carry information in that way too. So that's something that I'm sort of interested in, the idea of finding out if there's any like cross-reference between some of these episodes where people are reporting strange occurrences that have smells and feelings and perhaps information that comes with it as well. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for in an answer, but that's the reason I asked.
Yeah, especially in the context of electromagnetic assault on our autonomic nervous system, our inner brain structure, we get something called phantasmia. I know you're familiar with all of this. This is the sense of tastes and smells that aren't really chemical in nature. There's something else that's being, induced in all this stuff up here.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you hear about it so often when people are describing odd occurrences, the variation between like sickly sweet or like hairspray or metal or something like that.
Yep.
So
didn't you guys, there was a portion of the episode when there was some drilling going down where one of the guys, Thomas, had told the guys, hey, if anything happens, you get a weird feeling, anything like that, you make sure you tell somebody about it right away. And the guys that were running the drill, one of them said he was tasting, I forget what it was now.
Metallic.
Metallic in his mouth. And then you went over there and you got it too, didn't you, Eric?
Yeah.
You tasted it too.
Yep. I have to say there was a short interval of time when I hesitated. I probably shouldn't have hesitated to say anything, but you want to be sure that you're picking up on what you think you are. You're talking about one of the drillers who stood right there with the drilling rig, doing some drilling just to the west of the triangle. And as you said, Jeff, Thomas, Bryant, myself, we had walked them through the possibility of strange, vertigo, nausea, strange smells and tastes and so forth. So we did have that discussion. And apparently he had been experiencing this and probably questioning what he was experiencing for quite some time. And then he finally told us about it. We went over and examined the hole that had been drilled so far. I did some measurements. I don't think that was shown, but it was
electric. You picked up some electricity from it, or there was a voltage showing up or something.
Yeah, I did some work over there with both the magnetic and the just radiation. I wasn't surprised to see some drift. I think we might be dealing with radon gas in some of these locations where we're drilling, and you get variations in this sort of a Venturi effect that brings it out of the hole. Anyway, I'd spent some time crouched over that freshly drilled hole. And on the way back, we may have been wrapping up the scene. I'm not really sure. I think we were coming away from that, going back towards the UTVs and the Jeep. And I was like, I'll be darned, I'm tasting that. Now, the reason I brought this up, and I do it anyway, but you want to know, are other people being affected by this? Not to say something about it would be wrong.
Exactly.
It'd be irresponsible. And as it turns out, more than 2 people picked up on that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I think it was one of the guys from Jim Royston's company, Omnitech, that was up on the mesa, and he had it might not have been him, but somebody had started feeling nauseous and not feeling well up on the mesa when you guys were doing something up there. It was you were firing rockets up on the mesa, and he was started not feeling very well at that point too. So
yeah, that's probably Dave from Lock Precision.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's what it was. It was him. Yep.
Yeah, and so and another good story, because again, non-fra loaded. This gentleman came in. We were sitting in the area that we use as a cafeteria, and he said, I've got this feeling here. I noticed that when I came onto the property, I feel like I was in an MRI. I guess he's had that experience before. Mm-hmm. I found it very interesting that he mentioned MRI, because that's an environment that uses very strong magnetic fields. Uh-huh. And when I have someone volunteering this kind of insight without the knowledge that there was interest specifically in magnetic transients here on the property, strong magnetic transients, boy, does that get my attention. Well, we were up, as you just said, on top of the mesa. We were preparing a rocket payload we were under a tent, and I watched as the hairs on his arms were standing up. And I've got one of our go-to devices for in the field, one of the tri-field meters, and sure enough, it's indicating there's something going on. That's a great correlation. You don't always have those, and so you're remembering it right.
Yeah, and that's something that because we are our bodies are. All of our senses are there. That you are a detection device of some sort, So anything that's happening like that, especially on the ranch when you guys are doing experiments and whatnot, everybody has to come up with. And you're right. You want to make sure that you're not just imagining it. Or wait a minute, let me see. Let me think about this for a second. But you got to bring it up. Even the slightest thing, you need to bring it up, because you don't know if somebody else is experiencing it as well, or is it dangerous to everyone?
Well, I like the way Bryant has put it in most of these discussions. Check your ego or your pride at the gate. Yep. Leave it there. Don't hesitate to mention, because first of all, there's human safety. Our health and safety concern, but there's also data value. Mm-hmm. And because we can mark that timestamp, and we can look for things in our other, if you will, metadata, that we're collecting 24/7.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think like the qualitative data of the human experience can't be understated either. Like the sensory experience in the environment, because we're animals. Right. Yeah. And so like you're observing cattle and how they behave. It's really no different, except for you can record it and express how you're feeling before something happens. Like there's so much information there.
Yeah, guys, Shannon, you are an intelligent multi-physics platform, like it or not.
Yes.
Yes.
That will go on my LinkedIn.
Very good. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you spoke about, Bobby, you talked about seeing a figure there, and there's been other people that have mentioned the same thing. And we know without a doubt, because it's been well documented, that there are things coming in and out of the airspace or in the area around the ranch. UAPs, if you want to call them that, or just anomalous things going into the mesa, coming out of the mesa, the orange balls when the guys from Blazing Bear were doing the drums and the 2 orange things went down into the mesa that was caught on camera. There are things coming in and out of existence in this place. And you guys are getting ever so close to being able to document this and being able to know when it's happening, which I applaud you for all the things you're doing for that. So is it a stretch to say that if these things are coming in and out of that space, that also there are, and I almost hesitate to say this, but beings or some other type of thing coming in and out of that space as well? Is it a stretch? I don't think so. I really don't think it is. So if you're scan that area, Bobby, because If it's happening, it's repeatable. You just had a repeat of what Travis went through. So that's a place of high interest, I would think, right off the bat.
Yeah, I can't blame anyone for questioning the evidentiary value of, say, knocking sounds, because it certainly wouldn't be hard to contrive that sort of thing, right? And folks do that sort of stuff. However, we know that I can tell you, every person we've brought on to participate in the investigation has been an absolute straight shooter. Yeah. So, certainly when Bobby brings something like that to me, I take it seriously. Now I will say this, we may have had some individuals come on site who get caught up in, because of front loading and expectations. They may have had some difficulty sifting the data in real time, but this is something else. What Bobby is describing, look, we have this happening year after year after year. And, I think it would be great to get Travis to weigh in on his experience to just sort of refresh that conversation.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to have him on the podcast at some point too, and find out more about that incident and other things too that he has experienced for sure. But wow, this has been fascinating, guys. And I know you have a time crunch here. You've got somebody coming on the ranch there. You need to go real quick, but I just wanted to tell you, thank you so very much for this. This has been great to have you guys on, and to and again, folks, I want to talk about the insider program, skinwalker-ranch.com. You can go there, check out becoming an insider. Like I said, I've been an insider from the very beginning of this program. And it is a paid membership. I think it's like $8 if you pay by the year, $10 if you do it monthly, but it is well worth the, if you're into this, which I think you would be, or else you wouldn't be here watching right now. It is something you should check out and see, what you think. And I guess tomorrow night maybe might be a good time to be watching. You never know when you're going to see something really cool happening on the ranch.
Has the last week or so been a good time to be an insider?
Yes, it has.
Let's put that question out there.
That's thanks to Erik here.
Yep. For sharing it with us. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted, matter of fact, real quick with the chat out there. For those of you that are insiders, have you been watching this week, and what did you think of it? So let's just have a look and see. Oh, I see yeses popping up already. So yeah, it has, and unfortunately, a lot of us have a life too. As much as I would love to sit in front of this computer all day watching the ranch, I just simply can't. And then I come running back and everybody's going, "Oh, that was phenomenal." I'm like, what did I miss? You can back it up, because, and fortunately, they do share it with us as well. Usually B. Jones and some of those folks are recording it and then putting some of it on there. So there you go. There's a lot of it popping up right there. See? So I tell you, folks, again, if you do like this stuff, you would definitely love being an insider and seeing some of the information. It's a great community of people, of like-minded people that are getting together to help with the investigation and the experiments going on at the ranch. And eyes and ears, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, again, as has been said in the beginning of our conversation, much, if not all of the credit, if there's credit to talk about for the transparency of the investigation, goes to Brandon Fugel.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It is with his approval, with his sanction, that we are able to be as transparent as we are and to share things literally in real time. Perhaps not every experiment, perhaps not every piece of data, but as much as I'm aware ever, anywhere.
Well, tell him thank you for all of us. I don't have his ear, but I would love for you to pass that on, because I know he already knows, but from the show here tonight, tell him, oh, it's his birthday. Oh, that's right. I think I did see that. Today's his birthday. B. Jones just shared that with us. So tell him happy birthday and thank you from all of us, if you would. Mike, Shannon, what do you think? I mean, has this been an awesome evening or what?
Very good. lots of data, lots of tech. What's not to like?
I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I always enjoy it. I always learn something new. I'm excited about the archaeology. I'm excited about the new technology. It's exciting. I always have more questions, though, which I think is a good thing after one of these. My
Yeah,
brain will percolate, and
I
then I'll
know.
go, I should have asked that.
Yeah, tonight I'll be doing the same thing. Why didn't I ask him that? Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
know. Well, good luck with all the data that you have to crunch. I don't know about any new computers or anything like that that you have, but I know you have a lot of work to do, and we can't wait. If there is,
that thing is a beast.
Is it?
Wow.
Yeah, that's Pete's.
It's heating the room.
Yeah.
For the nerds out there, 96 cores,
Oh, smokes.
256 gigabytes of RAM, and 12 terabytes of hard drive space.
Wow.
So
Signed by.
a huge shout out to Lenovo, who finds this work interesting enough to say, we think we got a piece of gear that could help you with your work. So
Wow.
That's
pretty great.
Amazing.
Wow. Thank you, Lenovo. Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, somebody just mentioned chips and salsa. We hope one of those is coming up soon as well. I don't know. We haven't had one in a while.
Well, right now, the new guy has to go out and pick up the deposit in the East Field.
Oh,
Oh, thanks.
Scat?
Yes.
the scat. That's the word of the day.
Take a big bag.
I can't believe we're ending on that.
I can, actually.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
I thought we got beyond that.
Not shocked.
It always comes back to the scat.
Nope.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys so very much, and we really do appreciate it. And we hope that when we do get some, when the season starts, I'd love to have you back on at some point where we can talk about the things we have seen. And I wanted to show my travel mug real quick because this one was specially made for me, I think. It's got on here, it's got the lasers that had the blockage. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Laser space cannons.
Yes, the laser space cannons. Yes, exactly. And then it says on here, release the Kraken, of course. Yep, you got to have that on there. And what in the crap? And it makes no sense. So
Work on the accent.
all right, yeah.
Yeah.
You have him down pat. I love that.
Take us home to the exit.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Jeff.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
folks, for being here with us tonight. We really do appreciate it. And like I said earlier, if you like the content of the show that these gentlemen put on for you here tonight, please consider giving us a thumbs up. And with that, we'll say good night, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Freeman Files. Good night, everyone.